made it to Chirohustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channel and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Invisired. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 361 of the Chirohustle Podcast. I'm your co-host, Luke Millette, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Vic Manzo, and if you want to understand what it is to catch the tone of chiropractic, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chirohustle Podcast. It's number 361 today. It's pretty cool. We have Vic Manzo on, DC. Vic, where are you coming in from today?
I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Nice. And my co-host Luke Millette is out in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And your host, Jim Chester, myself, I am out here in beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado. And before we jump into this, we always like to give the signature why. Why do we do what we do? Well, our show protects free speech. And I think that's so valuable today. It protects free speech in chiropractic. And a little bit of that we protect is the sacred trust. And if you don't know what that is, go do a search on it with your favorite browser. Find out what the sacred trust is. Maybe check out the Second Amendment again. See what free speech means to you. And then we do support subluxation-based chiropractors, innate intelligence, and universal intelligence, which is something that, if you don't know, it's the idea that man, the spiritual, is connected to man, the physical, when a chiropractic adjustment clears the nervous system. So with that being said, Dr. Vic, welcome to the show, man.
Brother, it's a pleasure, guys. Pleasure to be here. It's an honor.
Yeah, I know it's, and you're a fellow podcaster. So I'm like, this guy's going to be a slam dunk guest.
I might make it a little easier. We'll see.
So jumping into this one, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your patients, everybody's going to listen to this. So I'm really excited for the chiropractic world to get to know you better. And I know you do a lot of production on your own, which if anybody ever starts a podcast, they know that they can never think about their first 10 episodes and people watching, or maybe not even their first 100. With you, you got to think about your first 360 episodes. So I think that that's a real signature. And we'll talk a little bit about the 2 books that you've written. And I'm really excited for this episode. But let's tell people your story. You are the chiropractor. How did you get into this beautiful profession, and what got you going?
I love this question. And, it's always, you always hear this, when we were in school, they always ask this, and it's like, it chose me some way, somehow. And that was kind of my journey. I've always been in health since 13 years old, working out, push-ups, pull-ups, got into weights at 15, studied nutrition, like macros and stuff around 16, 17. So I always was taught that. My mom's a fitness instructor, so it's like, supplements, working out, that's health. 19 years old, I'm at Arizona State playing rugby there. And my first year in, my health just starts to decline. Now, I can run a 5-minute mile. I could bench double my weight. I'm in the best physical shape I've ever been in. But at the same token, every month I just kept getting worse and worse. And it was just symptom after symptom of something weird, like acne in my back, cold sores in my mouth, headaches. It was the weirdest thing. I had like yellowness in my eyes, like jaundice-like. And I was calling my mom. I'm like, hey, something's up here. I may have like some blood disorder. I have digestive stuff. I have too many things being involved. And so long story short, to get to a doctor's office took like a month. About 2-3 weeks in, my mom's like, why don't you go see Dr. Frank? Now, my mom's been under chiropractic care now at date of this day, about 38 years straight. So she's been going to see the chiropractor named Dr. Frank. And she's like, why don't you go see him? I said, if you can get me in tomorrow, I'll be more than happy to get that set up. Able to get the call. I got in, and all of a sudden he looks at me and he's like, listen, I can help you. Here's your why. I found out I had scoliosis. You can't play rugby anymore. But what we're going to do is I'm going to see you, 6 days a week. Then after that, we're going to go to 5. Then we're going to go to 4. And you're going to probably be all of a sudden going back to school, but I'll help you with your symptoms. I'm like, you sure I don't have a blood disorder? He's like, no, you're fine. I was like, all right, I trust you. Let's do this. About 2 months in, all my symptoms are gone. I'm getting ready to go back to school. And I was even in better shape than I was before, which was weird because I didn't change anything. And from that moment on, I was going to school for computer science. And all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? If he helped me with my life and what he just transformed there, there's got to be more. There's more people who are worse off than I am. So this may be something I want to look into. I want to learn more about this. And that's where I dove full head in, learning the philosophy and everything early on. And that was my choice to, leave Arizona State, come back to Chicago, and go ahead and start my journey to be a chiropractor.
And maybe you could also touch upon a little bit about your involvement in the world of podcasting and also book authoring.
Yeah, that started later on. I've always had a curiosity of the mind, mindset, what makes people great. Michael Jordan is someone who I loved watching as a kid, and just see him excel. Like, you think he's done, like he hit a max, and then all of a sudden he'll go further. And you're like, how does he do that? And other players wouldn't, but he would. And there's other athletes I would study. So from there, I started, as I was going through chiropractic school and learning the neuroscience and everything, I was always in the back. I was also learning energy medicine. I became a Reiki master and trainer, started learning spiritual laws and studying like what's tone, right? D.D. Palmer always talked about tone, but I wanted to know what did that mean? Because what I was learning in school did not resonate to a certain degree of what tone was and the philosophy of chiropractic and those kind of things. And I was going to Parker College at that time, which was with Fabrizio Mancini being the president and so forth. They were very good at the time with all that good stuff, but I felt like I was missing something. So I went in energy medicine to learn that. When I came out of chiropractic school, I got my business going and so forth. And then after about 4 or 5 years in, I started going, after testing everything I learned, I'm like, I want to put this in a way to share with people. And I've always wanted to be an author. I have a goal of writing 30 books in my life. I'm working on number 3 right now. And it's one of those things where I started to shift gears and say, I'm going to write a book. And I started writing my first book. And I'm like, I'm going to get a podcast out. I did a podcast before on health. And that was kind of my jam a little bit. But there's so many people talking about health. I just want to be another guy. So I was like, where can I go that needs to have a different approach? And I was like, mindset. That's what I love. That's what I'm into. So I started studying more quantum physics. I started looking back at my neuroscience, neurology. How does that all interrelate? Took spiritual laws, and I started putting that all together. And there came the birth of my first book. And at the same time, I launched a podcast my whole goal was just to get information out about teaching people how to take the power back to them and understand that greatness they have within, and to start sharing that light, that essence of who they are to the world as much as they possibly can.
And where can people buy your books if they're interested?
You can get them anywhere online. Amazon, easy way to go. I have them on my website also, but Amazon's easiest. We have it on ebook, we have it on Audible, and then we also have it in paperback.
What's the website, just in case?
empoweryourreality.com.
Yeah, writing books. 30. I'm impressed. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a great position to be. The more that we can get out there with positive information, the better. So I'm really excited that you're writing books and you're producing podcasts. People, sometimes think that podcast is just a hobby job, but really what it is a connector, and it's an amplifier, and it's a messenger, and it does something special in the ecosystem of content creation. And a lot of people, they don't realize how much time and effort it goes into booking good quality guests. They don't know how much effort goes into producing shows and, getting the cover art going and making sure the brand is good and the intro music's good and you have good brand alliances. There's a lot of stuff that goes into running a podcast business. And I think the average podcast, I don't think goes past like 10 episodes. Like,
oh, wow.
Most people die out. I think something like 70% of podcasts die out, or 80% die out after 10 episodes.
All right. So we're cranking. We're both at what, 30x that right now, guys? All right. I like that. Yeah. No, totally. I mean, I always tell people, some people ask me, why did I start a podcast? And I'm like, well, besides getting the mindset stuff out, I said, I started interviewing people 4 months later, and I said it was for selfish reasons. Where can I go to meet people like I'm meeting and interviewing and have that opportunity? I don't get out enough to where I can meet certain people. And now there's some people I've had on my podcast where I'm like, I read all your stuff. I studied you to a T. I'm like, this is so an honor to have you on my podcast. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, you never know who you're going to connect. We just actually booked Peter McCullough.
I saw that. That's exciting.
Yeah, and I think whenever we get a chance to like really promote somebody that's doing big work in the world, it's cross-pollination marketing. And it co-brands us with other people's message. So now chirohustle is co-branded with Vic. And when people go ahead and do a search for, our SEO is so powerful that people are going to see you as one of the top pages on their search engine when people are looking for you as who you are. And that's what's really cool about this cross-pollination marketing is we audience shift. And I look at it as like fishing in new ponds. Is you get a chance to like, you get an audience guy that's in the UK. Now you're fishing in a new pond of listeners. Now you get somebody that's in Spain, new pond of listeners, somebody that's in San Antonio, new pond of listeners. And then, they're, like I said, their patients, their friends, their family, their colleagues, everybody listens to this stuff. And it is the new, I'd say the new segue of passive entertainment that people can really, they can do anything they want to and listen to what we're doing right now. So anything. Cool. They can drive, they can work, they can walk, they can work out, anything they want to do. They can do while listening to a podcast. I think that's what makes it so powerful.
Amen to that. Couldn't agree more with that one.
So let's switch gears a little bit more back towards you. Let's talk about your health. I know that chiropractic is probably a huge component in there, but what else are you doing for you and your family to make sure you guys are tip-top shape and, as healthy as can be?
I love this. I'm always working on my health. I'm always trying to get better with it in every way, shape I can. So, chiropractic is the forefront, never miss an adjustment every week. Have been for the last, 10 years or 12 years now. The other things I do is there's the mindset component, right? So I even with like when I teach and work with people, I always tell them you got to work on your mind. You also got to work on your body, because if you don't get the mind right, doesn't matter anything else you do. So you want to get that solid, and then the body follows. So I do a lot. I practice meditation daily and breath work. And I have an infrared sauna. So I'm always doing that in my infrared sauna so that I'm getting all the benefits when it comes to those kind of things. Then I do, I'm always working out 5-6 days a week. I eat a very clean diet. I intermittent fast a lot. I keep, my macros, proteins are moderate, carbs are low, high in fat. Some people like to call it a keto-ish like diet if you wanted to tie it to something. But I'm a biohacker, so I'm always looking for ways to hack my body. Like right here on my desk, I have a red light, so I'll turn it on. You'll see it get red really quick. So I keep that on when I'm doing work, so I don't have all this blue light blaring. Like you got the blue blockers on you right now. I'm just about almost ready to put mine on soon. So I'm always studying and looking for ways how to lower EMF, I grow my own food as much as I possibly can. Not saying I get all of it, but like, that's why we moved to Tennessee. One of the big things was to have like 9 months of growing seasons. So that way we can harvest 3-4 times throughout the year. Eventually down the road, we used to have chickens in Chicago, but when we moved where we are now, we can't. But, how can I control as much of my food as I can to know where it comes from and what I'm feeding it? It's like when you're getting eggs that you fed the best of the best to your chickens, and they've pasture raised and they're eating fresh grass. There's nothing on it. It's all natural. Man, those eggs they were just unreal. The best eggs I ever had in my entire life. But I'm always challenging myself to the next level, what I can do and continue to do. So that's what I do for myself. My wife, she's right up there with me. She kind of follows the same thing. She likes to follow, she's pregnant right now. So she's doing her regimen as much as she can, but we're always looking for ways to maximizing it better. Like one thing I'm getting right now, it's coming in actually this week, is a continuous glucose monitor, because I want to maximize what's my sugar levels. How does my body respond to certain foods versus non-certain food? How do I sleep if I do certain exercises? And just to kind of get all this guessing work out of the way to know, hey, for the last month, here's when I had spikes. Here's what foods are good for me. Here's what foods aren't. Is fasting really good for me? Or does it stress my body over a period of time? All these different factors to look in. So I come from a very scientific aspect to come with approaches to make sure that they work. I mean, I have an Oura ring on my finger where I track my sleep. I have some other tech that I use to monitor and see what's going on and how I'm doing. So that way I'm not guessing or just thinking, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's like, no, let me see if this works for me. And then if it does, so be it. And then I'll follow through with that. And my wife does kind of the same thing with Oura rings. We have, we hack our sleep when it comes to a chili pad. So like, this is I don't know if you guys heard of a chili pad or Uller pad, but it's a temperature control sheet. It has water flowing through it. And so you can control your temperatures and they change throughout the night. So I actually interviewed on my podcast the inventor of it, and she was telling us that like when you have colder, so like if I really worked out hard and I'm kind of like a little fatigued out from my workout, I can go ahead and I'll just make it get cold, which helps me with my I'll make my sheets a little colder throughout the most of the night so I can amp up my deep sleep so that I can repair my body better. If I had a very hard mental day, I can go ahead and ramp up the heat on my sheet a little bit more towards the end. So my REM sleep's going to be higher. So then I can repair my brain a little bit more. So I can kind of play with this into alter. So this is kind of the world. This is my world and what I do when it comes to my health and my family's health.
I love it. I have a couple follow-up questions based on that. Are you doing cold showers?
Yeah. I have a goal this year by August to get my own cold plunge. I don't like cold showers. I tell you, I'd rather jump in a 38-degree tub of water and sit there for 5-10 minutes than to take a cold shower. It's just the cold shower, you get hit once and you got to turn, you got to deal with it again. And it's like 4 times around before you're calm. At least the plunge, you go in 5-10 seconds. And after that, you're like, all right, here we go. I'm good now.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Chiropractic Rocks, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, doTERRA, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, and Invisired. Let's hustle. Good answer. And then meditations. You said you do that in an infrared sauna.
Yeah.
What are you doing for meditation? Are you listening to something, or are you just like chilling out?
Chilling out. Sometimes I'll put on like soft music. I like to have some sort of music just to be in the background, but it's just me in my space, zoning out, going to the bliss.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff you shared. The Aura ring. What are you most? What were you most curious about getting that thing, and what have you learned about since you've used it?
So I used to use something before called Zeo. I think it's called Zeo. Yeah. And it used to be a headband you would wear and it measured your brain waves and it could tell you exactly what sleep states you were. So this was like probably 2012, 2011. And then they went out, they were too ahead of their time. And so they sold all their rights to Big Pharma. And so when I had the interview with, I had patients coming up telling me about the Oura ring and they had it. And I'm like, there's so many things out there. They're not accurate. I need some accuracy or else I'm not going to buy. And then when I interviewed one of the leading thought leaders in sleep, she does research. They share funds for research on sleep. And she's like, they're 90% accurate. I get nothing for this. And I was like, you know what? If you're 90% accurate, that's pretty good. So I was like, I'll jump all in on that. And so I just use it to regulate my sleep. And that's what I primarily use it for. It has heart rate variability capabilities in there. It's not accurate because, heart rate variability needs to be in a room or like, stationary, eliminated from distractions or anything that can throw off the readings. But I will use it for like recovery. So like every morning I'll wake up. And this changed me in a whole different way. I used to be a guy that woke up at 4 a.m. I went to bed at 8:39, got up at 4 religiously, no matter what. And now I wake up, and because the way my schedule is, I'll wake up and I'll look at my sleep results. And I'm like, did I get enough sleep? Did I get good REM? Did I get deep? And if I didn't, and my HRV is not great, I'm going to go sleep another hour to get that up as best as I possibly can. So then that way, when I wake up, I hit the marks of where I needed to be so I can be ready to go for the day.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you see chiropractic going in the next 20 years?
I think with COVID and everything happening right now, we have an opportunity for chiropractic to take the lead, and technology is going to lead that. What I mean by that is this: I just had an interview with somebody who's very into technology for health, and this guy's in advance. He owns a couple companies and doing some big things in that. And he was talking about how the movement in health is going to data that we can use, and then we can share this with our doctors. We all know that the big medical system is not designed nor trained to help individuals when it comes to health. We all know it's a sick care system. And I think what's going to happen is these technologies and these things are going to help open the door. And chiropractors, depending on how they practice and their philosophies and so forth, like I consider myself a holistic chiropractor. So I'm not just chiropractic, I do nutrition and a bunch of other things. It's going to help people to start realizing that they need to take care of themselves in some way, shape, or form. And I think chiropractic is going to lead that way. We are the only ones that are trained to do that. We're the only ones that are trained from in a holistic perspective. We're the biggest profession that's in the world when it comes to I don't even like using this term, alternative medicine, just for lack of better terms. And I think that with all this movements that are happening in this way, I think this is going to be huge. And just what's going to be starting to come. And look what they did just with pediatrics, with changing all the milestones around. That's an opportunity for pediatric chiros to really open up that door to start educating and sharing, to saying, hey, there's something wrong with this picture, and they're just kind of moving things so that they can put everyone back under this graph, or whatever you want to call it, the bell curve of what we're seeing on an average.
Yeah, I think you are right. Chiropractic is primed. I think honestly, because of the technology explosion, everybody walks around with a sore neck. Like if we're gonna say that chiropractic is reduced just to neck and back pain, as some people want to say, I think chiropractors should be exploding with practices, because I go through airports all the time. Everywhere I go, grocery stores, walking on trails, people are doing this. And I'm like, yeah, I could see how chiropractic would be the most popular form of preventative health, and helping people, because all these people are, I guarantee if you shot a film on their neck, an x-ray on their neck, most people are having degeneration at a young age, and they're probably having more headaches than ever. And posture is health. When I was growing up, and when my mom was growing up, and when my brothers were growing up, they would say, watch your posture, put a book on your head and walk with good posture, and you'd be hard pressed for a kid to find a book, and then you'd be hard pressed for him to put it on his head and be able to walk with the darn thing. So yeah, I think that, you said a lot of great stuff there as to why chiropractic is going to be at the forefront. People are looking for something as a solution. And I don't know if it's alternative, but maybe we should call it solution-based healthcare. And I think that if we just start changing the vernacular of a positive approach to what chiropractic is doing, everybody would at least want to go investigate and be curious to see somebody. But I think we need to break down the dogmatic walls of what's been done historically with, the AMA trying to say what they've done, and that smear campaign, and the whole Chester Wilk trial. By the way, Chester Wilk's still alive. Like, I get his emails. The guy writes like 3 pages of every email is like a book. I'm like, how does this guy have so much like energy to write like a green book?
I'll have to get on that email list. I'll definitely have to.
Yeah, he sends them to, like, every week. He just sends the deepest email you've ever read, and I'm like, I can't even touch this, Chester.
So, who have been some of your heroes or people who've inspired or empowered you throughout your life?
This is gonna probably maybe like cliche, but my dad's number one. I mean, he
Nice.
instilled some values in me that he's a blue collar guy. He made it. I hardly rarely saw him until he had some hours change at one of his jobs. But I used to work with him on the weekends, help him lay carpet. That was his side hustle, as we would like to call that nowadays, right? And that's what he just instilled hard work, but he also instilled how to take care of people. So like he used to drive me nuts how meticulous he would be about things. And I'm like, Dad, why are you taking a razor blade out of the bottom? Why who cares? No one's going to see it. It doesn't matter. I know it's there. I'm going to get that taken care of and do it right. That's what you always do this right. People do things X, Y, Z. You don't cut corners. And so he kind of instilled that in me in my life. And that's someone who, that's my biggest hero. There's a lot of others if you want me to go down that route. I mean, but I would have to say the big hero of all my life is my dad. I mean, there's a lot of others that come up, like, Dr. David Hawkins. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him, but he wrote the book Power versus Now. Not that I ever met the guy, but I've read his work. And he transformed my life and understanding the principles of what life is, understanding consciousness, understanding the law of vibration, and understanding how how you can test and actually use something like muscle testing that Dr. Goodhart came out with, and to use it as a tool to start revolutionarily change things. So that's just another one I can think off the top of my head. Viktor Frankl really transformed my life at 19 years old with his book, A Man's Search for Meaning. Really started to have me understand more of why I should focus on my why and forget the hows of what I'm trying, how to do this, or how do I want to become this, or how do I want to do that, instead of just focus on what you want and just go there and then put your energy there, and everything else will take care of itself.
Well, if you could pick any one person from history to sit down and have dinner with, who would you pick?
Nikola Tesla. He's the guy. You think about it in today's world, 1,000 things that he invented still to this day that we use. And yet he is not anywhere popular in the school system. He's not popular anywhere. I just want to spend one dinner with him and pick his brain on free energy.
Yeah, imagine if we could link the OG chiropractor number one D.D. Palmer up with Nikola Tesla.
I mean, another person I like to have dinner with is D.D. Palmer. I mean, everyone talks about BJ, and I love BJ. But D.D., I mean, here's a guy who's a magnetic healer, and all of a sudden he's talking about tone. And in today's era, we are just proving scientifically what he talked about back in 1900. I mean, that's just, to me, I just want to pick his brain and just, where's your thought process? Where did you get this from? Where did that come from?
Yeah, I would like to meet chiropractor number one. Just saying, like, he's like the real deal. Like, there's no one more true than what he was, because he founded the profession. And I think a lot of times everybody's all bandwagon BJ, and I think that's it's valuable. But personally, I'd like to meet them both, but I'd like to meet chiropractor number one, just because, just think about how challenging of a pioneer it would take to do what he did, to create something that never existed before and to give it a life to where it is today. And yeah, super impressive.
Yeah. I mean, he filled up office rooms with walking wheelchairs and walkers, and, and he went against the medical machine. It's just amazing.
Never sold out.
Nope. Principle as it gets. Subluxation base as it gets.
Never sold out.
Well, as we start to wrap up this episode, Dr. Vic, maybe you could share with us some of your biggest, most impactful patient testimonial stories. Like, what's the big number one that sticks out in your mind?
I always get, it's the shock and awe that I get that really inspires me. I could tell a 1,000 stories. And I mean, the last 5 years of my practice, I saw 50% peds. And it was last year, this one won my heart over. And it was a mom who came in who was pregnant, and we were working with her for pregnancy and all this other stuff. And then through my consultation, she's like, "Can you help my son?" I said, "Well, I don't know what's going on. What's happening?" And she told me he had a genetic disorder. I apologize. I don't remember what that exactly was. But long story short, he was 4 years old. He can't extend his head. He has to be in a diaper. He has no colon. He's had 20-something surgeries. He'll never live a normal life. And he doesn't talk, none of these things. And she's like, "Can you help him?" And I was like, "Listen, I don't know what the extent of what I can do, but I can tell you one thing I know for sure. The body thrives better without interference than it does with. And if I can remove the interference, maybe we can help with pooping, because his poops are runny, very watery, all these different kinds of things. And he had allergies. He gets antibiotics every other week. So he'll go 1 week on, 2 weeks off. And it was a cycle that he just had. He had a colostomy bag that he had to use, and the parents they gave medicine through there. And so long story short, they agree to have him come in. We do the scans as best we can. And we start care. Long story short, About 2 months in, and mom's like, he's smiling. I have like a boy who's just starting to smile. And I was able to connect with him because when I was doing work on mom, I do counting on certain work for muscles that I'm doing for pregnancy. All of a sudden, he'd be smiling. And so then dad's like, hey, I've been using this to change his diaper because I couldn't change his diaper. He gets very mad and upset, and he would start to calm. And all of a sudden we had a connection from there. But what was the most inspiring thing for me, because here's the thing, I could tell you stories of kids who couldn't, who had massive seizures often and all of a sudden didn't have them anymore. Children who had, I can name a lot of different things. But this one inspired me the most because I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know if it was going to work. I mean, not that it wasn't going to work. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. Most of the time I can predict things like, hey, we're going to get to a certain point. This one, I'm like, we're going to give it the best that we can. His bowel movements got hard. Even the doctor couldn't understand. He didn't have a colon. He's like, wow, the things are changing here. His dependency on, when it came with utilizing antibiotics and needing them more, became less and less as we got further down. Allergies and all these other things started to turn around. And I remember asking the mom, I was like, have you seen a better, quality of life overall? About 4 months in, we were doing a progress exam. And she's like, this is night and day of what my child is. He's happier. He's not having any more issues with his digestive system. He smiles so much more. He has more interaction with all of us more. And I'm sitting there going, I'm in tears as the mom is in tears. And I'm just like, all I knew is one thing. I just knew, and I'm thank you for trusting me in this process. But the only thing I knew is that the body was going to do better without the interference than with. And that's the only premise I could have gone off. And I just go, thank you for trusting in me in the process, in this whole journey that we've had. And they were patients for, until I closed the office down. And it was one of those things where that one hits home the most because here's a kid who can't communicate, but yet I found a way to communicate with him, make him smile. So every day at the end of the visits, I do my count. So I make sure I got my smile. I try to give him a high five. It wouldn't work, but, and I would move on from there. But that was a miracle story because here's a kid who has, from a physiological process, this is his life. This is what it's going to be. And yet chiropractic turned that around to make it somewhat better. It may not clear it, and who knows what the journey is going to be. But at the end of the day, we were able to change something, even when that was a genetic disorder.
Well, Dr. Vic, we've reached the end of our time together, but I had a great time all the same. And so if people want to get the book, they can either search Amazon or they can go to empoweryourreality.com. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And are there any other websites or links you want people to have to get to know you more?
If you go to empoweryourreality.com, you can connect there. You can connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I have my blog. I got my podcast on there and all the things that I do.
Awesome.
Well, you're a prime example of what a Chiro hustler is. So you're on all the platforms and all the medias, and you're doing the work, man. I'm really thankful for the opportunity to have you on our show today. You're episode 361. You've joined the tapestry of documenting the future of chiropractic that Luke and I are holding down.
I appreciate you guys doing this work, man. We definitely need this.
Well, thank you for being our guest again, and we just want you to enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too, guys. Appreciate y'all.
Bye for now.
Have a good one, guys.
You too. We'll see you.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.